Hey, super awesome listeners. Jen is taking a little break before the start of season 6 of What Are You Listening To on January 20th. That's just next week. In the meantime, we've got some episodes from the rest of the Super Awesome Podcast Network. This week, it's once again from the Super Awesome Mix podcast where we present Sam's top 12 songs from 2024. Welcome back to another Super Awesome Mix. My name is Matt Sidholm, alongside my co-host and co-founder of Super Awesome Mix, Sam Abu Salbi. Sam, how we doing this week?
Doing real well. Can you believe that we are here? We made it, end of 2024. It's we've gone through so many songs.
And yeah, I mean, pretty uneventful year outside of the world of music, I would say.
Yeah, not a lot happened. Real quiet. Yeah.
But I feel like the world's earned this, right? Just a real, easygoing year. Nothing too
super
exciting.
Easygoing. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to write anything about this year in history books. So, it's great. Imagine. It's nice to finally have a calm year, We've been through a lot.
Yeah. I feel like the world earned this, okay? So just everybody relax this holiday season, okay?
No, but I'll be honest, as I was going through and picking, so, if you aren't aware already by this point, this is our best of mix. And the format that we do every year is that I will pick 12 songs, my favorite of all the new music that was released this year. And that will be this mix today. And then Matt will pick his and we will record that soon. But, as I was going through and picking some of these songs, I had to double and triple check that an album actually did come out this year, because I was like, there's no way. That's been out for 5 years. I was convinced that it had definitely not come out only this year because of how long time has stretched at parts of this year. So I don't know if you had that experience so far, if you've been working on your mix.
Oh no, yeah, for sure. There was definitely didn't that album come out 2 years ago? What are we talking about? And it's so as fast as time seems to go by, where we're sitting here going, oh my God, it's already December. Then you look at something like this and it's oh, that seems ancient now,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That was easily 6 years ago. And it's no, that was February, like that. Wild.
All right. So like Sam said, this is his top 12, and they are in order from 12 to 1. So we're going to count them down here, just like Casey Kasem and Ryan Seacrest have famously done. Since these are all your picks, I will introduce each one. I will name the artist, because it is not 12 songs from the same artist, although there are some artists here that I'm sure you probably could have just picked 12 songs from. And so without further ado, let's get into it. Okay. Number 12 on your top 12 list. It is X-Ray Eyes by LCD Sound System.
Yeah. Okay. So this barely snuck in. And I have to say, notable mention, the new Kendrick album, which released basically right after I put together this mix.
Yeah.
So I really just want to say I'm not ignoring it, because there's some excellent tracks on there. But that's the problem. Kendrick should have released it a week earlier. We're in touch with his people, so this doesn't happen again next year.
It's kind of his fault, right?
It really is.
So save your viewer mail, right? Or listener mail, I should say.
Listener mail,
video, but the listener mail, because it's Kendrick's fault. It's not our fault. Yeah,
it really is. But it's fine. It's fine. I mean, he's got the Super Bowl coming up. He'll be okay. So yeah, this one by LCD Sound System. The reason it made it all the way to number 12 is, and we talked about this when I first introduced it very recently, which is that it really is, and this is my new term for it, it's a Stockholm Syndrome song. You don't like it at first, but the more you listen to it, the more you're like, I actually really like this, and I think I might love this song. But the first 4 times you hear it or whatever, you're like, why am I listening to this song? I don't like it. And then it sits with you. So I had to just put it in here. It made it, squeaked in number 12. But it really does. It just kind of, I don't know, it reminds me of a Kraftwerk track. And I just really like the throwback sound of this old electronic style music. And again, it just kind of has stuck with me ever since.
Well, it's Kraftwerk, and listening to it again, right? It's got a little bit of cake in it, I feel like. And
right, yeah.
Yeah, I was shocked that this ended up on your top 12 because I was like, "Wait, didn't we hate this song?" And then I heard it. I started playing it and I was like, "Wait, I do like this song." And then I was like, "No, this wasn't the song we hated, right? No, no, no."
Right, right.
And then I'm like
Yeah.
looking back at my notes. I was like, "No, we both said we kind of hated this at first." So, yeah. I love that. Stockholm syndrome
Yeah.
songs. I think that's a mix in our future of songs that, man, didn't like this at first, but really came around on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we might. I would love to know what listeners think, or what is on their mix for that. We can kind of poll the audience, so to speak, and get some picks on there too, because I'm certain we all have those songs in our life where first couple times you don't like it, and then by the 100th time you're like, "This is my jam," turn it up.
Well, and it's not like an earworm. It's almost, you know what it is? You know what the perfect band for this is? It's a Black Eyed
Hmm.
Peas.
Oh my God, yes, yeah, they would be 1 through 6 on this mix.
Because you hear those songs even to this day. Like I go to like a Mavericks game or something, and they're playing some random Black Eyed Peas song, and it's just like, do I like this? And then after like 30 seconds, you're like, yeah, I'm into this. Here we go. Let's go. Rally in the third quarter. Like, yeah. They are the classic example of that, and that it's a weird genre of music, and yet you can't let it go. Can't let it
Can't
go.
let it go.
Yeah. All right, number 11. It is "Eyes Closed" by Imagine Dragons.
Yeah, I have to imagine that Imagine Dragons is also on that list for a lot of people because like their music probably, I feel like it's probably polarizing in that regard. You either like, yeah, I'm really into it because because all of their songs are the same. We've said that before,
Yes.
right? Like they all have basically the same sound, the same like kind of melody, the same lyrical content. So you either like it and you're like, cool, I'm here for this, or it's just like the worst thing ever and you're so bored with them because, again, they're all the same. I'm in the category of just generally liking it. And I think especially this year because so much of my year was dominated by training and just kind of like getting out there and exercising and pushing myself all the time. I needed a lot of, amp up music. And so I like this one. I like it. Its content, the lyrics that I continue to come back to in the song is like, I was born, I was raised for this. I could do this with my eyes closed. And then also the other line I really like is they say tomorrow's never promised, which again is, is a good reminder, right? Like tomorrow is never promised. So it's just kind of be present, be in the moment, be grateful for what you have. So that's why I like this song and why it made it on my best of for the year 2024.
Tomorrow's never promised, but we do have one more episode this season. So don't overlook that.
Look, we'll get to your mix,
actually,
Matt. All right.
Yeah. The Spotify rap thing that comes out, right? Or no,
Yeah.
I think it was Apple Music sent theirs out. Like I got an Apple Music one, and this was my number one song of the year. This was my most played song, and I think it's entirely because of my son, who is a massive Imagine Dragons fan. And
That's awesome.
We went to see them live actually when they rolled through Dallas this year. And it was a great show. There were a ton of kids there. And I think that's what's kind of cool is that they can appeal to so many like different audiences, right? It's very like family friendly, and a lot of people might take that in a bad way, but it's like I don't care if my kids listen to this, right? Like there's no bad content in it at all,
right?
But it's not so hokey. It's not children's music, right? It's just kind of good music that's not really into any adult content, I would say, or at least kind of, I don't know how to put it exactly, but
no, I'm following.
Yeah. I mean, but every adult there was like, yeah, I kind of like this song too. Like they have a ton of songs. I'm just like, I like this one. No, I really like this one. And
they've got
same
good
thing
beats.
with this one.
Yeah. I think they kind of tap into something and it works for them and good for them to keep doing it. So I'm here for it.
Well, and it's just kind of the ultimate quote unquote pop band where it's like, we're just going to keep coming out with songs and they're going to be super popular and we'll keep touring. And that's, I don't know, that's how you make a career, right? Like you just keep doing that same thing really well. And so
exactly.
They definitely do it. So nice pick there. All right. A little bit of changing gear here. Track number 3, but number 10 on your top 12. It is Sweetest Thing by Kyle.
Yeah, this is like a severe like vibe shift. This would not make a good mixtape if it was like a traditional mixtape in that regard, because You go from being like, yeah, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go lift a lot of weights to like, oh my god, I'm bawling my eyes out and and I'm so sad. And then you go right back to to the lifting
Yeah, your
weights
next
vibe with the
pick
next
is
pick.
right back the other
Yeah,
direction. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's truly an emotional roller coaster. But yeah, this is probably my most surprising pick of the year in terms of just like a song that I didn't think that would stick with me and that I really, really enjoy. You know, we talked about this originally earlier this year. It's a very emotional song and will make you honestly just want to cry. Like listening to it is like you can just get tears in your eyes listening to it. And I think part of that, listening to it again recently for this mix, I realize he himself sounds like he's choking up when he's singing it. Like he makes
Yes.
these little sounds that sound like he's about to cry. And I think that is communicated. I don't know if that was purposeful, if that's genuine. Either way, it works really well. And I just think like, especially when he's talking about, hey father, I hope you're all right. I got to hold your hand in my dream last night. And the way he's like singing that and again just sounding like he's very emotional and welling up. It's just super powerful. So I think it's an amazing song in that regard, especially if you've, unfortunately you've suffered loss recently. I think this is a song you can just lose yourself in and kind of tap into those feelings again. So that's why this made it on Best of 24 for
Yeah,
me.
100% agree. Like that was something I picked up on this time too, listening to the song. It's like it's emotional enough, and maybe I was crying the first time I heard it, and that's why I didn't pick up on him almost being in tears. But this time
Yeah.
listening to it, it was like, yeah, it sounded like he was almost choking up. It's almost like I was listening to a live version and something hit him.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
it was anyway, it's a great song though, and it also falls in this category. This is where I'm kind of appreciative of something like Sirius XM, where there's a zillion channels and all sorts of genres and subgenres and music can get out there just in its own little group, because this is not a song you're going to hear just on conventional
Right.
radio.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if you're on Sirius, there's probably a handful of channels that this would fall into, and so I think that's kind of cool and something, I don't know. Just a thought that popped into my mind was like, I'm glad there's a service out there, and obviously there's ways to discover music. You can listen to this show, and there's algorithms and whatnot. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, great song. Really glad you put it on your top 12, because thinking back on it, I really love this one. But yeah, definitely not one that you want to listen to just kind of in public, I think, because you'll
Right.
probably
Right.
you'll probably be a
It's a
mess of
bit
yourself.
emotional. Yes.
All right, now switching it up. I mean, this is one you do want to listen to in public. You want to blare this one out your car windows, okay? Number 9 in your top 12. It is "Triumph" by Bishop Briggs.
Yeah, as we already mentioned, huge vibe shift. Not a whole lot to say about this one. It is just another in a long list of songs this year that just got me fired up and would be on like my pre-run or pre-workout mix. I love the line here, especially listening to it again this time and paying more attention to the lyrics. I started in a guarded place. The more I pushed, the more I gained. And I think that that's like a really good summation of doing something hard and pushing out of your comfort zone. In the beginning, you do tend to be a little bit more guarded. You're a little bit more fearful, but you realize quickly that like the more you push, like you break out of that space and you will learn a lot. You'll gain a lot. And I think that, I myself have done a lot this year that I'm proud of and getting out of my comfort zone. So that is why I wanted to include it here. But other than that lyric, I just think again, it's like, it is a very classic amp up pre-workout style song. Like you want to go and run really hard having listened to this.
Yeah, I thought this was perfect. Not only is it kind of the classic Sammer build up song and get you fired up, right? Like this is kind of
Yeah.
in your wheelhouse, but especially this year, as you talked about running the marathon, like really fits. And a song like this had to be on your top 12, I felt like. Because yeah, as you learn from running a marathon, like you can do hard things. You can triumph. And that reminds me, Sammer, isn't there a new season of Super Awesome You coming up?
There is, yes. It was just recently released. Season 3, first episode came out, and it was all about the marathon and that realization of doing hard things and that you can in fact surprise yourself and do the really hard thing you didn't think you could do. So be sure to check that out. Super Awesome You can find it where you are streaming this podcast. You can just pop on over and press play there and let me know what you think.
Nice. All right. So number 8 on your top 12, it is Good People by Mumford and Sons and Pharrell Williams.
Yeah, I remember this was another kind of like surprising mashup between these two artists because I wouldn't put them in the same room normally, right? So it's a great collab, but I think it works really well. And part of why I wanted to include it again, two reasons. One is we actually went to a gala. I didn't ever know how to pronounce that earlier
Gala.
this year.
It's a gala
Gala,
apple. It's a gala.
yeah,
It's the Met Gala. I don't know.
the
I
Met
don't know.
Gala. Yeah,
Yeah.
let us know, listeners. How do you pronounce that word? Um, I went to that event, that fundraising event, and Mumford and Sons actually played. They were one of the artists, that did like a small little mini concert
Hmm.
there, and it was incredible to listen to them live. They are really good live, which makes sense because I think they're a very instrumental band, so like it works well in a live setting. Um, so that's part of why I picked it. The other part is I just love a good hand clap song. Like they have they tap into something. You can clap along with it in a way, like it has this like gospel feel to it. I think that that's what I really key in on with this song. And I really love the line, the sun is rising. That can be a very personal thing in your life, right? You can feel like the sun is rising in your life. And I think that that's a powerful thing to kind of focus on the positive things that are going well in your life. And hopefully there's a lot of them. So that's why this is on the mix this year.
Love it. And I agree. Like this is a really cool collaboration. It doesn't sound like a Mumford and Sons song, and I think Pharrell Williams, to his credit, kind of brought showed you how good a vocalist they can be.
Yeah.
Outside of like what they do well, right? I mean, we kind of talk about the sort of Imagine Dragons sound being what it is. It's the same thing with Mumford and Sons. They have a certain sound to what they do.
Yes.
And so to take like the vocals out of that and then put it to something very different, I think is really cool and makes it really memorable as well. So yeah, I mean, just a really cool song here. So I'm glad you included this. All right,
Nice.
next track. It is track 6, halfway point here in the mix, but number 7 on the countdown. It is "The Devil I Know" by Dorothy.
Yeah, this is my favorite like new band discovery of this year. So I had not listened to Dorothy prior to 24, and along the way of hunting for new music, heard this track and absolutely love it. As we discussed before, very much reminds me of like the Pretty Reckless. I'd say like those two sounds are very similar to one another, similar kind of band makeup too. So really really love this one. Also felt like I couldn't do a best of mix without some kind of a hard rock or like metal track on it. So obviously, I had to throw this on there for that reason, but I really just love, not only the sound here, but again, the lyrics, where she's singing, like, I won't bend, I won't break. You can beat me down. You can try to cage, but no stone you throw will ever shake my faith. And so again, it's just like coming back to that theme of this year for me of there's going to be moments where I felt very beat down. But I literally would just remind myself, like, I've already crossed the finish line. I just need to get to that point. Like I have faith that I've already done it, and this is the work that's required to get me to do it. That was like kind of an ongoing mantra for me. So I really like that lyrically as well here.
Yeah, we love women who rock on this show, and so I mean this
Yes.
this fits really well. No, I love this one the first time you put it on a mix, just because of the themes of it, but also just like you said, like it's great to hear just a cool like rock song, right? Like rock used to be like
Yeah.
the music genre growing
Right.
up, and now it's kind of morphed into all these other different genres, and that's not a bad thing, right? But it's always cool when you do find a song that's just squarely in that category, and I think that's what this is for sure. All right, number 6 on the countdown here. It is "Places to Be" by Fred again, Anderson Paak, and Chica.
So yeah, this one could be paired with the LCD sound system track, but unlike the LCD sound system one, this one is an earworm, at least for me. Like you can listen to it and then you will just be repeating, I got places to be, like over and over and over and over again in your head for a while. Which is both a fun thing and also not a fun thing. Random fact, I looked up how to get rid of an earworm this year because at some point something really did get stuck in my head. And one of their tips is to chew gum because apparently the
Oh,
act of like chewing is just enough of a distraction that your brain kind of loses what it was like repeating in its head. And I tried it. It actually works pretty well. So there you go. If you need to get rid of an earworm, chew some gum.
And if you're just coming off a flight while trying to get rid of an earworm, you kind of get a twofer from the gum chewing.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
No,
it's
that's
not
great.
just music on this podcast.
Yes.
It's also life advice. Okay, like
There's a lot. We have a lot of value. But yeah, I also really love anything that Anderson .Paak shows up on. I find his voice to be so unique and interesting and very fun to listen to. And so every time he does kind of a feature or is a feature on a track, I'm here for it and I will enjoy it. Same as this one.
I agree. And it's very much like, when you see Pharrell Williams on something, I want to hit play just to kind of see what they did, right? Like, it's like, I won't even necessarily automatically like it, but I am curious every time I see that name pop up on a certain track. And I think there's a lot of credit to both of those artists that they can inspire that. But this one, I agree with you. Very much an earworm, something you can kind of say like, it kind of fits every day though, right? It's like, I got places to be. Like, you can just keep saying that. And it's kind of a fun way to deal with whatever crazy schedule you're dealing with. So yeah.
Exactly.
Really like this one for the everyday usage part of it. I think that's always fun when you get a song like that. All right, we're into the top 5 here. And number 5, no surprise that really these next 2 bands, really next 3, right? Like the next 3 are very much in your wheelhouse, okay? But number 5 here, it is Classical by Vampire Weekend.
Yeah, no, absolutely. These are not surprising picks if you've been a longtime listener of the show. So Vampire Weekend, new album. I will say, I don't think that I haven't found a recent Vampire Weekend album that I like more than the original ones. Like when the band was fully together, there was just something about that sound, like that makeup of people that was incredible. But this one I like more than the one that was previously released, which I'm blanking on that name. So this was a really good entry, and I listened to this album a lot this year. And also in particular, this was one of the albums that I could not believe was released this year. I was certain that it had been out for many years because I listened to it a lot, or, I think it came out on the earlier part of 2024, but I really double and triple checked that it actually came out this year. But yeah, I really like this one. And I think, Vampire Weekend does a good job with lyrics of just kind of being clever and very like real, and the sentimentality of the song is that cruel things over time become classical, and we study a lot of history and we can just gloss over huge atrocities and just not even connect with any of them, right? Because it's just like, well, that just becomes like classical history, like the attack of Rome by Carthage, like all of these things. It's like, that probably was a horrific, scary time, but we're like, yeah, like Rome was destroyed, no problem. Like, what else happened that day?
It's just a fact that happened, and then it's kind of, it was a different time,
right?
We don't do that now.
Right. So yeah, I think they do a good job with things like that.
This was a really cool song. I also kind of felt like just musically, they did a good job of kind of interpolating like kind of a classical feel with sort of their sound and their music. And so I just loved sonically how it worked. And one line I called out, something's going to change. And when it does, which classical remains, which, like you just brought up, it's like, there's this constant evolution and we're constantly moving forward, and we constantly talk about the passage of time. And then we look back, and the thing that was like horrible in the moment is now just sort of a line in history. And so, it's really, really kind of interesting how that happens. And so good song to just listen to, but also kind of to reflect on, especially as we come to the end of the year. All right, now track number 4 on the countdown. It is Beautiful People, parentheses, Stay High by the Black Keys.
Yeah, again, no surprises, as you said. Love the Black Keys. And, it's interesting. All 3 of these bands, with the next one included that we're going to talk about, all had like a somewhat different sound this year with their album release. So, Vampire Weekend in the sense of like, again, it's not the original makeup of the band, so everything's been like a little different ever since that mini breakup. Black Keys here worked a lot with Beck. on producing this album, and you can hear it because this honestly sounds like a Black Keys song with like a Beck filter applied, right? Like that's you probably like if you're familiar with Beck and I didn't tell you that he helped on this song, you would probably be like, wow, this sounds like a Beck song, you know, but it's got some like bluesy rock sound that the Black Keys bring. So I really like it though. I think it worked well, and I enjoy when a band will try something different and try something new. You know, whether or not it works, it doesn't matter. It generally doesn't matter to me as a listener, at least. But I like when they're trying, you know, experimenting different sounds and stuff. But I think this is just a really catchy, fun, highly repeatable, kind of great energy song. So that's why it's top five for me
Yeah,
here.
this was one you talked about this on the last track, but this was definitely one I was like, did this come out this year? And I had to look back. I mean, I think it was like January. It was like very early in the year when this one came out, but then it got a lot of radio play. I kept hearing it pop up, and so
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's just a good one. It's just a feel good song, and yeah, like you said, a little bit different. You can definitely hear the Beck influence on it, and yeah, not surprised that it's on here, but I do think it's well deserved. This isn't just you making adding songs that you like. I think it's definitely a top 12 song of the year. Now, number 3 on the countdown. This I think is a little bit of a controversial pick. Okay, you started out with a controversial one at number 12. I think this one kind of falls in that category as well. Number 3. This is The Emptiness Machine by Linkin Park.
Yeah, no, this probably will bring some controversy. This one is probably it's a personal pick more than a best of the year for sure. But you know what? It's our podcast, and it's my mix I'm putting together. So I'm gonna stand by the pick. All right, standing by it. I listened to the whole album. You know, it's been out now. And whenever I first put this song, this was just like the lead off single for it. And I'm not crazy about the album. I will definitely say that. Like there's some other songs on there. I'm like, yeah, this is good. I will come back and listen to it. But in general, I wasn't. It's not like Meteora or Hybrid Theory where I have listened to that like just an infinity number of times all the way through without skipping. So this is unfortunately not that. However, you know, just like as we talked about, trying new things, adding another singer here, adding a female voice to the band. I think it's great. I think it works really well, especially in this song. I think this is a really good track. It kind of sounds the most like the OG Linkin Park. And again, for me personally, the reason why it's so high on the list is ever since it came out, it immediately made it to my like morning run, amp up mix. Because it just has that energy of like, yeah, like it gets a little screamy. You want to crank the volume and it'll get your energy up. So that's why for me, it will always be associated with this year in that regard.
Now, let me just say, I like this song, actually. I think the controversy is I actually read up after we talked about it on our mix. There were some articles out there that I guess, hardcore Linkin Park fans, as well as Chester Benningfield's family, were not real happy about them kind of putting the band back together and putting out a new album and having Emily
Oh,
Armstrong in
interesting.
there. And so it was actually something where some people kind of panned it critically because it was. But I'm with you. I don't even think it was a departure. Like to me, I was like, this is
Right.
actually great because they were able to kind of recreate this sound. I wondered if they used any AI and they hadn't. Um, and yeah, I think Emily Armstrong deserves a lot of credit for what she brings to the table here. So, I mean, I actually like this song. The
Yeah.
controversy that I was referring to earlier was kind of out there in the ether, if you will, because I think there were some fans who weren't thrilled with this offering from the band.
Yeah, I mean it's not surprising. Like we had an entire episode on Van Halen, right? And like I think there's still a lot of controversy and people are split between between the two like lead singers there. So I get it. It's a big deal when you lose that in a band over time, but I'm open to it.
It'll be interesting to see if Linkin Park decides to record multiple albums, like the way Van Halen did, where it was like there are these two very
Right.
distinct eras of the band, or if this is kind of a one off with Emily Armstrong. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see if it develops, because then you really could have a situation like that where there's just two distinct areas. But again, like we said, I think they sound like kind of classic Linkin Park. So if you like that sound, I think you're really
Yeah.
going to enjoy that one. So at number 2, we've got Autumn Nocturne by Samara Joy.
Yes, Samara Joy. So she is based out of New York. She is a jazzy singer, and she is my number two pick for the entire year because, number one, it was an artist that I had not heard before, which is really fun. I love, again, part of this podcast is being introduced to new music and new artists constantly. And number two, I think, this song ranks really high for me because there's something about her voice and like just the vibe, her albums that just immediately transports you. And I think really good music can do that. Like you feel one way and then you play an album or a song and you are suddenly somewhere completely different. And there are just, there's music, there's sound, there's bands, that just do that so well. And I rank her very high for that because the second I start to listen to this album and this song, I am no longer where I'm at, right? Instead, I'm like in like a jazz club with low lights and like the red velvet couches. And, like there's like a classic looking bar off in the corner. There's a small little stage. She's singing, with like the red curtains behind her. Like I just can imagine that so richly when I'm hearing her sing. And that's all through, my headphones or speaker at home. And so I think that there's a lot of power in that. I just think she has a very beautiful, inviting voice in that regard, and the sound is incredible. So, really, really happy that I discovered her this year, and she's been an album that I come back to time and time again for kind of my, just wanting to feel a little chill and to be somewhere different in that moment.
Yeah, this one was, when you put it on the mix originally, I was like shocked that this person's like 21 years old because such a
Right.
throwback sound, such a beautiful voice. I mean, her last name is Joy, and I feel like that's what she evokes with the way she sings. And hearing it again this time of year, my first thought was, when is she coming out with a Christmas album? Because that's what I think I want to
Right.
hear,
Yes, I could
is
see that.
her singing some
Yeah.
of those Christmas standards. I think it's going to be awesome. I referenced Nora Jones the first time we talked about her because, again, when she came around, it was very much this, well, this is nothing like anything out there right now. And Nora Jones obviously gained a
Right.
lot of popularity. So I'm hoping the same for Samara Joy. But yeah, great pick here. I'm really glad to see it ranked so highly as well, because this really was something distinguished that came out in 2024. All right, so here we are, the number one pick by Sammer. Okay, number one new music for 2024, and I think from an artist standpoint, this shouldn't surprise anyone. This is "Everything Is Romantic" by Charli XCX.
Yeah, I know. Her album, right, is just blowing up in terms of nods and nominations and accolades and everything. So, not a shocking pick. Definitely, I'm part of the crowd that just was obsessed with the release of Brat, and I'm proudly part of that crowd. It's fine. I don't need to be contrarian and be like, no, this was a bad album, because it's anything but. It's a very good album. This in particular is my favorite track off of the album, and the one that I came back to over and over again. Where, if I just wanted to listen to one song off of it, I would pick this one because I just love how, for me, like, I love how layered it is, how it opens up through time and it just kind of adds a little bit and adds a little bit and adds a little bit. And I think that really shows the power of like her and the producer Cook. That they're just like kind of pop music geniuses. I think they're just really good at producing music. And she's like an amazing vocalist and an amazing artist in that regard. So, incredible album. Certainly going to be, I think, a huge contender for a lot of awards going forward because she kind of broke the system in a lot of ways, and it was really exciting to see that. So yeah, I love
Yeah,
this
great
song.
song, great album. I mean, obviously one of the big standouts across the world, really, this past year. And she got to host and be musical guest on Saturday Night Live recently. And she
Right?
actually did a great job on the hosting side. Sometimes it's a little weird when you get the musical artist out there acting beyond just like one skit, but she really kind of went for it in a couple skits. And
Yes.
she just did a great job, like to where she just kind of blend. And she doesn't have, I think for me, it's not like she's so instantly recognizable that she couldn't just blend into the skits and just kind of be another actor in there. So yeah, one
Right.
to
Right.
note that she did a really good job hosting, because not all musicians do a great job when they're in that position. But yeah, obviously one of the big names of this year, and can't fault you for putting her at the top. This is a great song, like I said. So nice work, Sammer. Top 12.
Thank you so much. Yeah, here we are, end of the year. We did it.
All right. Well, there you have it. Another super awesome mix for your collection. But we've got one more. It is my top 12. Okay. So I get to promote myself here at the end of the show. So join us next week. It is our last new episode of 2024, my top 12. But enjoy Sam's top 12. And so for Sam, this is Matt, and we'll see you next time.